namaste, Rajvi ji. Rajvi Mehta, you've been with us already actually since 2021, several times supporting this Yoga for Indie program. Thank you for coming again and giving us some insights about the Iyengar style of yoga. So you've been learning directly from BKS Iyengar, from the master, you're a student, and you've practiced this for I don't know how many years, but I know that is the style that you have learned. You've told in another interview that you don't know, you can't talk about other yoga styles because you've practiced this one. So when I look at the, what is Iyengar style of yoga, if I Google it, I will find that it is an alignment-based yoga. So it looks like it's very physical. And if you look at pictures, what I have in mind will be blocks and ropes and, ropes hanging from the walls. So can you define for you, how would you define Iyengar yoga?
First, from my own understanding, as I've said earlier, the first yoga class I attended was with Guruji. And for me, that is yoga. Whatever I've learned subsequently from Guruji Gitaji Prashantji, that is yoga. Whether one calls it Iyengar yoga, yoga is taught as BKS Iyengar, whatever it is. However, yes, like you rightly said, if you Google, you come across all kinds of definitions. Some, I do not know who writes these definitions, and somebody writes it and possibly it gets passed over and it's written, so it goes on. I think overall, Guruji himself has defined Iyengar yoga, or when people asked him what is Iyengar yoga, he said there is nothing like Iyengar yoga. Yoga is yoga, so there is nothing like Iyengar yoga. However, what has happened is that the style of teaching possibly must have been very unique at that point of time. So people who studied it would sort of explain that yoga as taught by BKS Iyengar. And then it came down to yoga as taught in the tradition of BKS Iyengar, because there will be second and third generations of teachers. And gradually, I think around the 80s, for the first time, from what my memory goes, in around 84, when they had the first National Iyengar Yoga Convention in the US, it sort of became an adjective. And, it became Iyengar Yoga. And surprisingly, today, people call it Iyengar. And even the dictionary defines, the Oxford Dictionary has gone and defined Iyengar as a form of Ashtanga yoga, wherein we use props, etc., etc. But actually, it is yoga. It's just the way Guruji has understood it, the way Guruji has practiced it. And I think the big difference is that Guruji started practicing first before learning or studying the sutras. So the moment he would practice, and he would start practicing at the age of 14, obviously nobody's going to teach the philosophy at that age, and whatever is. And in a span of 2 years, he was with his guru, and then he practiced on his own. So when he practiced, he didn't look at the text, but over the years, as he got further interested into the subject, he started looking at the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, he would start looking at the Yoga Sutras, and then he wanted to see whether his experiences matched the Yoga Sutras. And therefore, if it did not match what the Yoga Sutra says, he didn't try to interpret the sutras. He started working on his practice so that it gave the effect the Yoga Sutras gave. And then the way he transmitted it, that became Iyengar Yoga. So if he says Sthira Sukham Asana, Sthirata Sukhata Asana. Now, if one looks at the individual words and you study the theory, you will say asana is where you are stable and in a state of comfort or joy or gladness or beatitude. That would become Sthira Sukham Asana. Now, it's a question of interpretation. So somebody will say, wherever you are comfortable, wherever you are happy, do that, that is asana. Guruji possibly looked at it, saying, whatever you do, you have to get sthirata. Now, that's the world of difference. Because being in my comfort zone and doing everything is Sthira Sukhamasana, or doing things, so whatever it is, I still have that Sthirata and Sukhata. And now, how do you transmit that? So that's where he started getting, he would experience it, obviously modifying the asanas, because that was the tool with which he started. And then when he would teach, that's where the techniques came in. The detailed techniques which Possibly Light on Yoga is quite a detailed book, but from what we have studied with him, I think even a Trikonasana would have as big a volume as Light on Yoga. So with all the 200 asanas described, you can imagine the number of volumes when he was practically teaching us. So at that point, I would say Light on Yoga is minuscule of what he gave us. So the techniques came in for us to experience the effect of Sthira Sukhamasanam, of Prayatna Saitili Ananta Samapattibyam, of Svatodvandva Anabhidhata, no duality. So this is how it came in. Now, what happens if a person is not able to do the asana? I mean, you'll say, okay, do what you can. Then will it be having the same effect? No. So that's where he started using his own body as a prop. He would support people. Okay, so the tailbone is dropping. You have some dullness in the pelvic region. You don't feel the continuity in the sensation, in the feeling. So he would support, say, the tailbone, for example. Then, when he started the classes getting bigger, it was not possible to do it. And also for the teachers to teach in such a manner, to have that sensitivity of right place to adjust. So that's how the props came in. So if today people say that, you read Iyengar Yoga is all about use of props, look at Light on Yoga. That is the classical text for a practitioner of Iyengar Yoga or anybody interested. There's only 600 photographs. There's only one photograph where there is a prop used, which is in Sarvangasana. So did BKS Iyengar not do Iyengar Yoga? So I think it's just somebody's conception, what they have seen. And it's, I would say, like the blind men defining an elephant. What I have perceived, what I have seen, that is Iyengar Yoga. So yes, there are technicalities. Yes, there are props. Yes, there are many other things. There is detailing. But for what? To get the effect that is given in the Yoga Sutras. So that is Iyengar Yoga, I think, as per my understanding and experience.
Thank you for the, misconceptions being realigned and from the inside, with the proper insight of proper experience from your side. I really like when you explain, the journey of BKS Iyengar, starting with his own experience and not from the knowledge, and then trying to see how it's matching. I think this is so valuable to first, yoga is about practice and sadhana, not about knowledge. So that's the first thing. And
to interrupt and add on, you talked about alignment. Now, so the fact is that people presume alignment from an external surface. Yes, from an external body, we are not aligned. We over the years, we are naturally stronger on one side of the body. We have a dominant side. We use the dominant side, so it is overused. The other side is underused. And that often becomes a cause of disease. So yes, we give emphasis. But by nature, internally, the body is not aligned. I mean, you have a liver at one side, you have the intestine, you have the pancreas at the other. So yes, most of the organs, a large number of organs are balanced. But are we using them equally? No. So yes, it starts building from an external base, but more than that, it is the internal sensation, internal awareness. And that is where, from his experience, he said, alignment leads to enlightenment. So it is not externally doing things or, marking out on the mat. Yes, it helps. It helps. If you want to write, as a child, you will have cursive writing, you'll have a dotted line, and it helps you. But that doesn't mean you become a master of the language or literature. It gives you an entry from the external, and finally it goes on into the internal world.
So here we are with the internal, you're giving me the prop to my second question, which was, what is the place of mental health in an Iyengar class?
I wouldn't say there is a place. It's an integral part. Like Guruji would say, where do you say the body end and the mind begins? I mean, can the body exist without the mind? So it is all integrated even in day-to-day activities, except that our awareness about this is not there most of the times. So it is very integral to Iyengar Yoga classes, the role of the mind. I mean, I cannot imagine a class If you're doing it, then it's not Iyengar yoga, because then that becomes exercise. So that it is, forget Iyengar yoga, it's not yoga, because if you're going to turn your leg, take your hand down, take it up, where your mind is wandering, or you need earphones to listen to music. And so where is the mind? The mind is outside. Yoga is about removal of the dualities.
Yeah.
So naturally, the mind has to be there. Otherwise, there's no yoga.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you bring back, this essential aspect of yoga, whatever yoga name we give, to this practice, with the continuity of all the bodies and all the, the aspects of our entire body, from the physical to the mental to the wisdom and beyond, which should be found in any yoga class, otherwise, yeah, it's exercise. So I think it's very important, because really, when we look at what is online, we have, like you said, these restrictions and this misconception about what yoga is and what each different style of yoga is. But they are all based on Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. So you have studied directly under the master. And can you tell us, take us a little bit inside, a class that you had with him as a student, and how you would experience that continuum from, the body? Was it during a practice class, or would he do also theory classes where he would explain, this continuity of the being?
He always taught in an integrated manner. So there was never a lecture. Yes, we did have lectures during special occasions, during, say, various events or Patanjali Jayanti, Hanuman Jayanti, or anniversary. Yes, there would be talks. But on a regular weekly class that we attended for years together, the sutras were integrated, quotes from Bhagavad Gita, from the Hatha Yoga Pratipika were integrated in the practical class. Now, to say, I like I said, now if I started classes in my teens, my understanding would be very limited. So obviously, when you're attending a class and when you're in school, it is definitely a physical aspect. Although you know what he's teaching is something far beyond, but at that age, you are not really interested in what is far beyond, or it is beyond comprehension, but it is surely doing something to you. Because come what may, there was a desire to continue, not for any reason, because in the 70s and there was no great thing about doing yoga at that point of time, and in fact it was not something that did, but something kept you going. So obviously indirectly there was some influence on the mind to get you to practice, and gradually you realize that your temperament possibly changes. So of course, when you started very young, you cannot say a before and after or what yoga has done to you, because you've grown up with it. So you cannot give a kind of comparison and say, I did yoga and whatever. But yes, Guruji's classes, in the class itself, he would possibly reach out more than what you would reach out to your own body yourself. So yes, all the barriers would get broken. So you have, for example, there's always a simplest thing is fear. It's an integral part. So all of us want to remain in that, or as one starts in the teens. So you don't want to, you will try, but oh, what if I fall? And the fall may be fear of physical, fear of people looking at you, lots of fears. But somehow you got yourself to do it. And that brings in the attribute of courage in an individual. Then you get more confident, then you get some determination. So if you're there, you stay in the post. Now, what is that? At that age, it is willpower. Okay, somehow you manage to stay. You don't know, but your mind is getting transformed of not letting go things. You get that, and then gradually over a period of time, the willpower gets transformed. It becomes integral to you. So again, there is a caution, because willpower can make you rigid. You make you aggressive. So over the years, how transformed. Then of course, you do get flexibility in the body, and along with that, you get flexibility in the mind, and which is nothing else but adaptability. You start adapting, you start accepting. And as you go further, you will, like for example, it may appear externally. Okay, keep your feet firmly on the floor, extend the arm up. Now, either your mind is on the feet, because what puts the feet down firmly on the floor, and the mind goes to the arm. Now, one, it can be a fluctuating mind, goes from the feet to the arm, say the extreme, or it can be a connected mind, which is spreading all across to reach the arms. So initially, it is more like I have my tension here, I have my tension there, it is moving. Then it's fully connected, and that's when you get absorbed within the body. And that is where actually possibly yogic practices start. So a lot of attributes come in at that age, which I guess play a defining role in an individual's life later on. So it's there. And then, of course, it becomes so integral that you continue going to do it. And you see the transformations, or you sort of realize how this small frame of the body is so vast. After all, what is the consciousness here is the consciousness outside. So when you get so absorbed that you don't see the difference between in and out, that is samatvam, that is yoga. So that doesn't happen all the time. You'll have phases, you'll have times, and you'll have patches, and then hopefully those patches become bigger.
Yes.
And that's how it goes.
So let me rephrase. So through this simple, exercise of yoga, practice of yoga, whatever the age, slowly you're talking about developing some of the qualities that you found, willpower, flexibility, adaptability, then continuity of consciousness, stability of the mind are the things that you have just talked about. And this, regardless of the age, knowing that,
Yes.
through the movement and through those postures and the awareness of the mind, you would reach higher and higher degrees of understanding of what yoga can bring. Is that correct?
So it starts. So willpower maybe at a younger age. As you go older, you don't need an external agent all the time. Willpower is in a way an external agent. Then you start understanding how much of it. So that balance comes in, that samatvam comes in, that equanimity comes in within yourself and with the environment. But that also depends on the level of practice, the level of, we've been fortunate. So we were always having the guidance of Guruji. So unknown to us that what was happening. It's only now you can articulate what was happening. But yes, these things were being transmitted during the classes, for sure. So over the years, you start. So possibly his teaching would have been the same or would have evolved further, but it's the understanding of the practitioner which would have evolved. So sometimes people say, oh, Guruji's teachings became, with more depth. Yes, obviously, with his practice, they would have, but then the understanding also, Guruji could reach out to the level of the student, which I think is a big thing. Not sit on the platform, but go to the level of the students. So children's class, he would go to their level and then get them interested in the subject. And then they continue. So there would be hundreds in the children's class in Pune. And, they would be thrilled. Even if Guruji was 80 and entering the class, they would be thrilled to do with him. Not because he's Guruji BKS Iyengar, but just the energy that came in. So children need energy. Children need to enjoy at that age, I'm talking of pre-teens, get interested. Once the interest is developed, once they have tasted it, they'll come back to it. And once they come back to it, it's definitely whether you are interested in the entire science of yoga or you're interested in becoming a yogi, forget all that. At least you're becoming a good human being and then you're on that path.
Yeah.
So not everybody is going to be is a yogi, 1 in a million.
Yeah. But we really want to talk about practitioners, simple people like me who just like to practice yoga and not make it a profession or, but understand what yoga can bring to everyone. So what are the, usually is there a profile of students that usually will choose to come to practice in the Iyengar institution, or you get absolutely everybody who comes in?
We get everybody. And honestly speaking, we wouldn't even know the background of a person coming in, except, of course, the age and gender. Beyond that, we would not really know the profile of the people who are attending the class. Uh, we are instructing the people, we are teaching. Yes, most of the teaching is in English, but if required, there's a mix of the local language in India. Of course, abroad, they'll teach in their local language. But when you see that the message is not being communicated by words, we demonstrate, so they visualize it. So if I say what I understand by straight, what actually they see, which is straightness, and mind you, the eyes catch much faster than words, than the ears. So they see what you're doing, they will follow it.
Wonderful.
So that's what it would be. Then if required, it needs guidance. You give guidance to the scale, you may correct them, adjust them. So there are various means of communicating with the students. So by doing that, we'll never really know the profile of the people, but yes, involved in the organization, at least in Mumbai and all, we have people from all backgrounds. So sometimes, and incidentally, for example, in one class, one lady came and said, oh, these days I have a lot of work, so my back hurts. It was a therapy class. So I said, okay, what do you do? Because she mentioned, she's saying, I'm a maid servant and I have to swab the floor. And then neighboring to that, we realized that the person, because we were going for a camp or something, and I said, oh, this person had said he's coming and is not yet come. Let's call him up. So when we looked up the number and he had filled the form, now the admin looks at the forms. I mean, we are not interested. We are interested in their medical history, their age, and if they have any health issues. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. He was a vice president of a large corporate conglomerate, and they were all in the same class. So yes, we get a complete profile of all kinds of people from all walks of life, homemakers to students to executives to anybody. So I wouldn't say it is restricted to any group. How deep they go, it again individualistic. Everybody's own. Well, I would say their own karma as well as their own interest in the subject and the social conditions for them, practical.
So this year, in this Yoga for Unity program, we're looking, because we are now completely out of this COVID, effect, but we still have the after effect of COVID and a lot of scar and a lot of new problematics that have come out after this isolation of people and losing, of course, people in their family or losing their job. Do you have more people who come for that would come more with an idea of looking at yoga as a solution for depression or anxiety, for mental problems?
A few, but I wouldn't say it has increased. Okay. Many of them actually were regular practitioners, and since we shifted after some time to online classes, they continued with us. There may be a few who have come in, but not a very severe. I wouldn't say there's a drastic shift in people coming with emotional disorders. But yes, I do hear a lot about it, that the pandemic, the isolation has created a problem. But unfortunately, we have had, since it continued, we were not able to take many new admissions because ongoing students were already there, the classes are full. So, we couldn't take new people. So I cannot say it is a right representative population because already they were practicing, they continued being online. And then when we reopened in person, they've come back. So they have not been experiencing this. But yes, we do get, so if there are people, we do get queries, then sure. But I cannot really talk about the new population that's coming because we've not taken very many new ones to talk about prevalence. But yes, looking at literature, reading general stuff, talking to people not from the yoga community outside, yes, there is definitely a rise in people's ability. I feel their ability to adapt, the isolation has created more so, even if they have not lost lives, but the isolation seems to have had a big impact on the emotions of the individuals.
But that's quite a wonderful thing, to see, to look back at this time of pandemics. Of course, shifting online, for most of the yoga classes, everybody had to do that. But that you feel that your students did not miss class, and also maybe not get the effect of, isolation. And maybe yoga was there for something. Yeah, I'm sure it was there for something, because not being able to go out, having a mat at home was a wonderful space to be able to continue your daily activity.
In fact, we had a lot of people telling that they were very happy about this because they had more time on hand. Coming from Mumbai, people spend a lot of time in commuting. So even if they're working from home, they had more time for themselves. And that gave them more time for practice, where they were not bound by time, especially the first few months. Of course, those who had illness in the family, that was a different issue altogether. But for the others who were fortunate enough not to have the direct effects of the pandemic or illnesses at home, I think they were quite content and were happy with the time they got for their own practices, and not bothered about, okay, class is over, you have to leave. And then when the personal online classes started, they were happy. So we were also happy that the discipline was maintained, and in the absence of classes, people were disciplined. And after that, I think people realized the importance of it. So that's how most of them came back when we reopened. And then, of course, you realize that in person is in person. It is not. I mean, online is good when you don't have an option. It has its advantages. It has a better reach, but then in person is, of course, something one would prefer.
Like you said, the energy of the room, in the room of the teacher, makes everything, and you don't really get that online. It's kind of lost.
Also, when you're teaching in person or practicing, there's energy of the room. As a teacher, you see expressions, you see skin tone, you see a lot of things which you cannot see in an online class. You can see a posture, but you can't see the person's eyes and things like that. So, yes.
Much better. Yeah. So if, some people who are listening would like to try, what is, what you propose in Iyengar institutions. So we do have a few classes. You have given a workshop last year, and we also have classes twice in 2021, 2022, and they're still available. People will be able to find them on this channel. But now, let's say that I would like to try, Iyengar style, and maybe in Mumbai or maybe in my city. How do I go about it, and what would be your advice to people?
Okay, so today, with the popularity of something, there is also some lot of misinformation going in. Like you started with what is the definition of people's perception or misperception about Iyengar yoga. So also there are a lot of people who claim to be teachers of Iyengar yoga, and I think one has to be cautious. In our tradition, becoming a teacher is not very easy. It requires time, and the time is not fixed because every individual is different. But you need at least 5 to 7 years before you are permitted to teach, and that to teach beginners. So we have a website, bksiyengar.com, where we have listed out the various institutes recognized by RIMI Pune and the various teachers. And also in this website, continuous learning is a very integral part, because as one grows, it's not what you have learned. It is a continuous process for any education. Today we have continuous medical education or continuous this thing, but continuous learning has always been part. I mean, if you don't practice, you can't teach. So that website lists all these people in different parts of the world. So one can go to that website and identify whichever institution there is or teacher there is in their city, country, and learn from them. So most people would have regular classes, either weekly, sometimes in vacation times, like in Mumbai, we do a week-long session for newcomers. If they're practicing every day, you get a better experience and understanding instead of coming once a week, and then they can join. We have continued with the online mode. So the institute in Pune also has regular online classes for regular practitioners, long-term practitioners, and for beginners. So also most of the teachers, even the Mumbai Institute has continued with online classes. There are people who cannot commute for whatever reason or time constraints or from other parts of the country. So that option is also available. So all they need to go is to the website and just verify whom they are learning from is a recognized teacher of the institute. And I would say it's more so for the safety aspect. Today anybody who uses props supports, they call it Iyengar yoga. And if we talk in that line, then Guruji did not patent props. He said people need support and it is there. And somebody had even asked him, some media guy, why didn't you patent? So he said, did the Rishi Munis patent the asanas? It was for everybody. So if everybody is using it, why should I patent anything? So it's fine, people are using it. But that doesn't mean that it becomes Iyengar yoga as we understand it, or if one wants to learn specifically in this tradition. And for that matter, today mats are there in possibly every yoga school. Anybody is doing yoga. But that mat was also discovered by Guruji. There were never these mats which were used earlier. People used dharis to sit on. So this was also, we never even had these mats in our Pune Institute. We never had them in Mumbai till the 1990s. So these mats actually came into the picture in the Western countries where people would do Viprit Chakras and the floors would be polished wooden floors. So people would slip, unless you have the control. It's different on a stone flooring. And that is when Guruji happened to see this somewhere in Germany, under the carpets that they used, this rubber thing. And those carpets have gone. And he said, oh, this is nice because it is sticky. So we used to call it a sticky mat. They were the original ones, were the German ones, green ones, light green. And they used it there. Pune also, we didn't need it because we just had mats. We had a stone flooring. And in that time, even in Mumbai, most places would have a stone flooring. So when you were doing sitting asanas or shirshasana, you had the blankets which were folded and used. But we needed. But somewhere it has come in that to do yoga, you need the mat. But it is not essential. Today, I would say it's used more to mark your space. Okay, this is my mat and this is my space in many places, not everywhere. So then I think most people use yoga mats. So then everything is Iyengar yoga. So I would say, yes, if you really want to learn, want to know or are curious, what is this tradition? What is the experience you get? What all it involves? It's best to go to one of the recognized teachers to start with.
That's so lovely. I didn't know about the sticky mats.
Yes.
I think it's very interesting. First, because we see also the creativity of Iyengar looking for what would be best for my student in that condition to be able to practice properly and to experience properly. And hence the props also, so how do I make sure that it is comfortable and a right experience? So the mat story is a gem. I thank you for this.
Yeah. So even if you look the light on yoga, so he did it and he presumed that people would have his level of understanding, intensity, commitment.
Yes.
But then not, these are rare gems. But even if we start walking the path, so even light on yoga, he's given a course, so actually if you follow it, you're supposed to complete the entire light on yoga. I wonder how many people would have done it. So I remember asking Guruji, you have written this, but he's saying I did it. So I thought others would also follow. I was a sick person. I was not really, so if I could do it, others could do it. So it's like that. But yes.
So Rajvi, thank you so much for bringing light on what is Iyengar yoga, so that was very enlightening for me to hear it from your side, and not only listening to whatever is told or reading whatever is written. I would like to know if you would like to add something before we finish this interview.
Yeah, it's quite amusing to read what is written about what is Iyengar yoga on the net. Sometimes they will say it is slow. I would say, okay, come to a teenager's class and tell me how it is slow. Sometimes they will say it is soft. It is not, it is tough. when you are trying to reach out and get into, the connection, it is quite demanding intellectually and mentally, in fact. Uh, then they will say it is relaxing. So to me, it is literally like the blind man looking at an elephant and describing the elephant with its feet or its tail or the trunk. So what you have seen in one class is not really what it is, because an introductory class would be very different, and you come and if the people are attending after say 25 years, it's going to be very different. They're still doing the same asana, but the level of penetration in the asana, the level of absorption, the level of their awareness spreading in the asana, the sensitivity is going to be very different. And also, so when you start, it is on the physical front, naturally. I mean, even if you're so-called sitting for meditation, you're sitting with the body. So nothing exists without it. So it does start. But as you progress, it starts, going more to your conscience. It's the mind, the intelligence, the consciousness, and it's finally your conscience. So okay, this is not right. Then you're beyond. So that actually, so it's quite amusing to see, the kind of definitions, and I've always wondered who writes these. So,
Thank you. So I hope we have inspired more people to and also you've given guidance on how to reach out to the right people who have been trained really in the Iyengar tradition, so that there is that continuity of teachings and that you get to experience the integrity of yoga, not only asanas, but the full spectrum. And I thank you again for your time and all the stories that you bring. It's always lovely to have you, Rajvi. Thank you again.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.